Yes, greetings, all of you out there. Especially, I'd like to send out shouts to some of my friends hanging out on the internet. Comrades across the various communities, what we like to call ICs, on the various platforms of the internet. But also, soulmates and fellows in the corporate world, the brick and mortar streets and corners of this world. Yes, in universities, in research centers and laboratories, on the various continents all over the world. It is the 9th of April 2026, and we are at a very distinctive and very humbling moment in the history and trajectory of the evolution of humanity. Because when you look around us right now, with so many, so many different aspects of the human situation, facing kind of like, would we say, wouldn't call them uncertainties, but kind of like emerging singularities, moments beyond which we may not be able to tell what exactly is going to happen next. When people think of singularities, some people think of course, of the concept of the singularity mentioned in the standard model of physics, such as the events happening beyond the event horizon, on the outskirts or on the fringes of a black hole. For those of you who remember the concept that the late British physicist Stephen Hawking loved so much, but also which was touched upon by earlier great minds like Albert Einstein. But there is another concept of the singularity that is also significant and which we cannot take for granted, and which has been touched upon by especially 21st century luminaries like Ray Kurzweil. Yes, the singularity that speaks not of events that are out of this world and which are light years away from us, outside of even our solar system, but events which are most likely happening in a room next door. Some people are living in cities, and you are living, let's say, in a room on the 5th floor, on the 5th floor in some building somewhere in London, and just three blocks away from you, or maybe even on the same building, but maybe 2 floors above you, or a floor below you, or a room just next to you, someone is seated silently punching away at keypads, typing and reading and reviewing and etc., working at what we call a Turing machine, you know, and these machines have created a whole other world that sometimes the physical eyes, the physical hands, and our physical selves made sense or made never or made not sense even when it's right next to us. You know, like assuming when someone, a kid is listening to this podcast or listening to this voice through headphones and using maybe their smartphone, or maybe using some iPod or some device of that kind, and you know, you're not hearing what they're listening to, but you see that they are wearing headsets. Sometimes even you're not even seeing the headsets, but they're listening to something, and what they're listening to is not originating from that device. It's actually coming from thousands of miles away. You know, someone is seated right next to you in a park in the city, and they're listening to somebody talking from thousands of miles away, and the voice is coming down to their device and reaching in their ears. And for you, you're seated right next to them, but you're not able to see how this voice is coming to them. You're not, you know, to you, it's as if these people are just seated there idle and doing nothing. So there is a singularity that's right in front of our eyes, and it's something like that. It's like a ghost constructing, you know, its edifice right in front of you, but in the astral or spiritual world, and you're not seeing that. To you, you're passing right through what they're constructing and going around and etc. And they're working day and day, and you, to you, there is nothing. It's just the trees and grass and rocks that you're seeing. So the idea that computing has created another side of our lives, our reality, is not something we shall take for granted always. We must learn to come face to face with what is happening, and how the things that we cannot see with our physical eyes, but which are actually taking place all around us, or taking place somewhere out there, might be of importance to our future, if not the present. So when the guys like Ray Kurzweil talked of the singularity, meaning the point beyond which artificial intelligence would have surpassed human intelligence, or perhaps where we would have reached a point where automation is capable of you know, feats, or is capable of manifesting things that we could not have anticipated, or which we cannot undo, or which surpass our capabilities as humans. That's the kind of singularity that I wish to draw your attention to. Of course, most of you may not be aware, you know, from whom these words are, or you know, who is this that is so concerned about this. You're listening to yes, future Professor Joseph Willrich Lutalo at New Jersey Research. As we speak right now, one of the greatest books in the history of computer science and computing has been written and is out there. That book is the TEA TAZ. Yes, Transforming Executable Alphabet A to Z, Command Space Specification. That book is now published and is out there, alive and ready for you to open its pages and come to awareness of what is now possible. Because there was a point in the past when certain things were just infeasible, or were out of the reach of some of you. But as we speak right now, there is a whole other universe of things that are now possible, and it's just at your fingertips if you have a copy of this book in your hands and are able to see what you could do with the T language. So this is a work that has originated from Africa, from a lab here in Uganda, Yes, right here at Nature's Research, we look up and the skies are blue as usual. The clouds scattered about. The sun rises in the east and sets in the west. We have Lake Victoria in the distance, not so far away. The air is clear. Birds go about singing. Once in a while, you see monkeys running around. You see a crested crane in the garden once in a while. And, you hear the voice of kids singing or crying, or, mothers shouting, or fathers busy at their day jobs, building or looking after the animals. Sometimes you see people working in the gardens. We are surrounded by so much activity. In the night, you hear drums, people drumming and chanting and singing. We have a lot of, activity going on, not just in the corporate world, but also in the spiritual world in this community. So, yes, that's what's happening, in the world we can see and touch. But a lot of people are oblivious of what's happening in the cyber realm. So the cyber realm, or the virtual world, or the cybersphere, is the realm that can only be seen, heard, or experienced through a computer. So just like some people would tell you that, I was seated there and I saw 3 ghosts walking right in front of me. One of them wearing a red robe. 2 others were seated on a horse, and they looked white, and they passed right in front of me. And you're like, are you serious? Was it daytime? Were you awake? Were you sleeping? Had you drunk something? Or so someone can tell you that, there is a state, or there's been a takeover of the world. And you're like, well, I didn't hear any noise. I didn't see any trees drop. I didn't see any fire. What is this? What are you talking about? And if you were, let's say, aware of what happens in the virtual world or in the cyber realm, and they told you that, there is something called the backbone of the internet. The backbone of the internet, for example, thinking of the network that underlies all the networks we rely on to communicate and exchange information between ourselves. Someone in Africa talking with someone in Asia in real time, someone in Australia talking with someone in Ghana, or someone in Antarctica, far away where humans hardly live, streaming what is happening in their research laboratory to someone who is in Xiamen in China. So that is the power of the internet. That's the power of computing, right now. So if they told you that there is a piece of software that has just been added to, let's say, the Linux kernel. The Linux kernel, or the Linux operating system, is one of those very fundamental pieces of computer software that underlie much of the automation happening in the world right now, whether it's Google, whether it's Amazon, whether it's Microsoft, whether it's Windows, whether it's your Android phone, whether it's your iPhone, etc. There are some bits of software which are like fundamental. Somehow they exist in one way or another on every computing device we have right now. So if I told you right now there is a new piece of software, fundamental software, that has been integrated in the Linux kernel, or in the core of what drives the internet, and that this software has opened up a whole new universe of what's possible. And this is something we could speak of when we think of a programming language, because you see, a programming language is like, imagine it's like a thing that creates an epoch, because there is a point before which you can say or do certain things, and a point after which certain things are possible, or they are no longer infeasible. So like right now I'm speaking to you in a language that you most likely understand because you are aware or familiar of English. Or if you cannot natively or relatively understand English, at least maybe you can use a translator to get the voice of my words, and translate it into your language. Maybe you're a francophone, maybe you are an Abyssinian, maybe you're a Swahili speaker, and this translator gives you the equivalent message in your language. So if you were walking somewhere and someone uttered something in a language which you don't understand, most likely, unless that communication was accompanied by some other form of expression, maybe like gestures or what, you may not understand or even know that they were meaning anything, or that any message was communicated, apart from just maybe recognizing that there was a signal, there was some noise, so in the realm of computers, something could happen, and if you just don't have the means to interpret or parse or understand what it is that was written in a given file, to you it might be gibberish, it might be nothing, and this could be what might separate or might make the difference between holding a rock in your hands that could be let's say the basis of something that could clear out an entire village or city. You people who remember the Second World War, when the likes of Adolf Hitler were at their zenith, and there was a lot of turmoil going on, and the United States dropped a bomb on Hiroshima that somehow culminated into the termination or ending of this war. But it had a lot of side effects, right? So when we go a step back to the early 20th century, some of you remember the chemists, and these chemists were a couple were not just collaborators, but were related by an intimate relationship. Curie and Marie Curie, and these guys contributed significantly to the manifestation of a lot of the theory and later science around radioactivity, the ideas that underlie, for example, the atomic bomb. You see, right now, a lot of the wars going on, Ukraine versus Russia, America and Israel versus Iran. People don't want someone or one country or one state to have this kind of power. For example, the power to create a nuclear bomb, right? Because if someone has that power, you know what they could do, Yes. So Marie Curie in the early 20th century, they were there playing in their lab, tossing about something, maybe holding this piece of rock, and they didn't know that this material created or produced or gave off some radiation that would later not only impact their lives but also the environment, etc. And to those who didn't understand radioactivity at that time, most likely they could hold a piece of uranium or plutonium in their hands and, for a given time and take it for granted, right? Yeah. So even today, we could speak of something like holding gold or uranium, or holding some very sublime or very fantastical material in your hands. But because you don't understand what it is, or for those that don't understand, they see it just as a gibberish or something. So, for example, the the T language, or the Transforming Executable Alphabet language that we're talking about, is the entire language is just a piece of text file, It's just a piece of text file, a few KBs. And you could hold it on your phone, or you could hold it in, you could even share it an email address and what. But this file is the key to unlocking a whole vast other world of computing that was previously not possible. And so it is like a key to a kind of singularity. So I don't know, maybe some of you think, this guy has gone mad, or he's talking about the impossible or what. But yes, as the inventor of this language, as the person who has seen this language come from its infancy in the early 2020s, when I was starting out working on this programming language, and now seeing where it has reached, and that we have completed another book describing how to leverage the T language, because several books have already come out earlier on, though not necessarily focused on the Transforming Executable Alphabet, but at least they either mentioned it or utilized it in one way or another, or maybe utilized the theory, especially the mathematics underlying it, like transformatics. So we've had several books come out, like, for example, the Applying Transformatics in Genetics, which came out in 2025, which was a book about an aspect of the biological sciences called genetics, computational biology. And then another book, Grimorum Tauto, Novus Modernus, Grimorum Tauto Magia, a book on esoteric science or occult philosophy, that also came out in late 2025. And then now we have the TAZ, the TEA TAZ, a book of applied computer science or pure software engineering that is out there. So this knowledge, of course, changes a lot of things. Having this knowledge in our hands now changes a lot of things. People could have thought of programming in a certain way, like 10 years ago, in a certain way that maybe was kind of limited or constrained in one or another. But now we can think of programming or commanding machines in new ways. Programming languages are like, for example, if you are a spiritualist, imagine coming across angels, or coming across spirits or demons, but not being able to communicate with them, not being able to command them, to tell them what to do, simply because you can't understand their language or they can't understand your language. So think of coming across machines, robots or automatons, and having a language which they can understand, or which they can respond or react to. So this text processing and sequence transformer chaining paradigm language that has originated from East Africa is surely a key to a whole new world. And I invite you to take a moment and look at what we are trying to put across in this book. Also visit the online platform or environment where you can try out or read these programs, and see for yourself that a single letter like the letter G followed by a colon, for example, can take a piece of text and remove from it all white space, meaning it can take things that were scattered or hued or which separated, and merge them or bring them together, what we call glue, and another piece of letter called A, anagrammatize. It can take a list of words and give them back to you in a whole new order, just by applying that letter to it. You know what that means? That is the kind of alchemy we now have at our disposal. Some people have talked or thought or heard about the Kabbalah, the magic of language and the magic of letters and the magic of numbers, which has been, in one or another, explored or utilized or mentioned or talked about by mystics and rabbis and esotericists since the ancient days, when the likes of Abraham, first received maybe instruction or directives from a sovereign that was not human. You could think of the first time when humans interacted with an alien, because there was a point before which humans could use written language. Now think of a time when humans received knowledge and it came to them in a written form, but not from a human, but from something other than human. So we now start to see that the evolution of human language has reached a point where every single letter, every single letter, not words, but every single letter can be looked at as a command that can transform things, that can be used to control or command or modify or make certain things happen. Now think of combining these letters in certain ways, and then you have what we are calling T programs. So it is a very exciting time. Abandi mukusa kwa mutankengere baitu kuruga umwaka gwa 2021 twizire nitwetegereza nituhandika kandi nitwongera n'okufuura omulingo gwa orulimi orukwetebwa T tali majani baitu omulingo gwe inyuguta zino zitweyambisa kuhandika n'okubaza baitu kuzeyambisa kubaza n'okuragira n'okuterekereza emiringo oba enyisana oba engeso z'ebintu oba ebyuma oba ebihangirwe ebyetebwa software ebikara mu kompyuta ezo. So abamu abatategedde muyinza okugezaako okufumiitiriza ne mulaba nti olulimi lwe tweyambisa nga twogera ne bantu bannaffe ate luliko n'ennimi endala eziyinza okweyambisibwa nga oyogera n'ebyuma oba oluusi n'engeri ebitonde ebitali bya mubiri ebituula mu byuma bino oba mu nsi eza technology ze bayita virtual world, balise software. So okuvumbula kukoleddwa ku Nutrients Research wali egaruga mu Uganda, ensi ey'abaddugavu, ate nga okunoonyerezebwa kuno kumaze kubaako okututuusizza ffenna nga ebitonde ebiyitibwa abantu, kubanga tulina kati olulimi lusobola okweyambisa mu ngeri z'okutondawo ebintu ebipya ebijja olwali teruliiwo oba terusoboka mu biseera emabega. So yeah, that's it. We shall have another interaction and chance to share and reflect later on, but I hope this message has reached out to you. So cheers and thanks to all of you, and let's look forward to a great future. And as they say, knowledge is power, but also that any significantly advanced knowledge or piece of technology is anything like magic. I would say let's use it wisely, and let's surely be excited about what the future presents. Cheers and love, greetings from New Jersey.